Hey everyone, I'm Jay from Kingdom Builder TV, and I'm here live at Winter Jam 2013, and we're so excited because this is the one time a year where we get to see usually between 8 and 10 awesome bands, including the guys that we're interviewing today. We got Matt Butler from Newsong and Russ Lee, and we couldn't be more excited. And you guys have a new album coming out. It's called Swallow the Ocean. Comes out February 13th.
We were just talking about that. We couldn't remember the date, but it is the beginning of February.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for reminding us.
Yeah. Well, One True God was actually a #1 album when it first came out in 2011, and it's my opinion would be a tough act to follow up with. And so, what was your approach when you were writing the new record? Was it different than past records that you guys have done?
I think we've really taken an approach of really using relationships that we've developed along the way. You know, Eddie's always been a chief writer. Russ is a great writer. A lot of the guys in the band write. But I think God has allowed us to have opportunities with other producers and other writers to kind of team up with. And I feel like with this last project, Swallow the Ocean, we had kind of an overabundance of songs to choose from. And so that'd be a main difference. Once You're God still was a good record, but I just think we have better songs this time around.
And I also think we actually took time to let the band get in the studio and make a record. And we've got, you know, our band is as good as anywhere. We've got great players on the road. And a lot of times if you're touring heavy, you don't really have time to put into an album like you want to. And even though we didn't take the time we wanted to, we felt great about the record just because our guys got to go in and kind of put their personalities in. A lot of people love what we do live, and it's because of the different personalities and the characters in our band and the great musicians. So we really just took the time to try to catch that. And I think that's one of the things to me that makes this album special, is because you hear our guys doing what they do so well. And it really is, it sounds like Newsong.
Well, tell us about some of the songs on the album. Is there any songs on the album that kind of stick out in your mind, ones that you really would want to reach the fans with, like on a personal level? I know we were talking about Swallow the Ocean, the actual song, the title track, before we did the interview. Well, tell us about that song. What's the backstory in the song?
Well, I think it was pretty early on in the process, we felt like that was going to be the first single and possibly the title of the album, mostly because Swallow the Ocean is kind of a catchy thing, and people have asked us, what does that mean? And I've had the privilege to go to radio stations and tell the story. There was a hymn that was written about 100 years ago, and as the story goes, the songwriter had writer's block when he hit the third verse, and he just kind of sat on it for a while, and he remembered something that a pastor had told him, which was a number of 1,000 years ago. There was a man who passed away in an insane asylum, and when they went in to clean out his room, they found written on the wall this unbelievable description of God's love. And they used that for the whole verse of the hymn called The Love of God. But our favorite part says, if we were to turn the entire ocean into ink and paint God's love across the sky, we would drain the entire ocean dry and still not even touch how big and great our God is. So that was the concept and the impetus behind trying to describe God's love. And I think we'd be more likely to swallow the ocean than to describe how big and great He is.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, you guys seem to switch it up often with the new records on who takes lead vocals. I noticed that with this particular project, Matt, you're actually singing lead on a few of the songs, which in the past you're more the background, and you and Russ have kind of taken an equal share on that, and really is kind of almost looked like he kind of stepped back on this one as far as lead goes.
Yeah.
What was it like, stepping into the lead on those songs?
It was humbling, probably the biggest shoes in the world to fill, and me and Russell both say it will be really good one. I mean, he's the best singer on stage every night. I mean, he's done it for years, and I'm not saying we're filling shoes. It's so loud. I'm not saying I'm filling his shoes, or that Russ is filling his shoes, but it's just kind of something that happened. I don't think we planned it this way. It's just, I was telling you earlier, it's just one song may fit Russ's voice better, or a song that Russ wrote, or a song that Russ came up with, may sound better with him singing it. So there's power in numbers, and hopefully, doing something new and different will work well for us this time.
And I think one of the things that sets Newsong apart is we really have 3 lead singers. We've really got 3 guys who, night after night, sing. I mean, that's what we do. And you know, we talked about the fact that Matt has been so consistent and such a great singer and really hasn't had the opportunities that we have to step out and sing. And we just kind of felt like, you know what, since we're showing everybody what Newsong is made of, why not let them just see the depth of what we've got? You know what I mean? It's almost like you've got a guy that could be the starting quarterback anywhere else, but because you've got 2 other seasoned starting quarterbacks, that guy doesn't get his opportunity. So give him his opportunity. And, you know, years ago when I joined Newsong, Billy kind of stepped back and let me take the lead a lot more. And so for me, it was kind of my turn. You know, I've had the privilege of singing on about 20 top 5 songs and written a bunch of those, 13 or 14. And so it's exciting for me because we're not just bandmates. I mean, we're friends. It's exciting for me. And one thing that I've learned over the years from Billy is it's really cool to promote somebody else's opportunities and to encourage them, you know. And the truth is, there's not a more talented guy in our band than Matt. And so people need to hear him sing. And, you know, I used to go and hear him sing in concert when he was with Truth before he was with Newsong years and years ago. I heard him sing. Yeah, that's you don't have to tell me that, but it's true. It's out there. It's out there.
I'll have to look it up on YouTube.
yeah.
Well, the next question goes to you, Russ. You were originally had joined Newsong in 1994. Were with the band for about 6 years and left to do a solo career, which you had a successful solo career. I was telling you earlier that "I Smile" was one of my favorite songs, and what was it like coming back in 2008 after being gone for nearly a decade? I mean, was the transition just like you had never left? How was that for you?
In some ways, you know, because I stayed in a relationship with these guys, Matt came on board right after I left, but I knew Matt, you know, and I traveled with the other guys. I traveled with Jack, our drummer, with Mark, our bass player. I hadn't traveled with Rico, but I obviously worked with Eddie and Billy a lot.
Nothing to prepare you for that.
No, that's right. That's right. But I'd worked with Eddie and Billy a lot. I'd written with Eddie over the years. He had written songs with me for my album. I continue to stay in touch with him. But I never really pictured myself as just a solo music artist. When I left Newsong, it really wasn't. It wasn't even about being the next Stephen Curtis Chapman or whatever. It was really about having the opportunity to do some ministry. I'd been invited to do things like do some concerts for the military, to travel overseas, and I wanted to include my family too. It's hard on us when our kids are small to leave home. And back in those days, Newsong traveled a lot more than they do now. And so I just didn't want somebody else to raise my children. I didn't want my kids to grow up without a dad and just a voice on a phone. And I wanted a little more control of that schedule, and God gave me opportunities to do other things. And so I kind of felt like with Newsong, I still love those guys, and we still remained friends. And I did some overseas missions work, and they even gave me money to help me do it over the years, you know. But I felt like we were kind of doubling our efforts. I knew what Newsong's heart was. I knew that they were about the gospel and the message, and they'd be out doing ministry somewhere. And so I felt like if I was out doing ministry somewhere and they were out doing ministry somewhere, we were kind of doubling the efforts. Well, a few years ago, Eddie was working on songs for a new project, and they were trying to figure out what to do about, moving ahead. And Eddie called me about writing songs with him, and I started writing some songs with Eddie. And he called me one day and said, "Is there any reason you couldn't just pray about getting back on the bus? What would keep you from doing that?" Because I was a worship pastor at a big church in Nashville by God's grace, and I had done 2 trips to Iraq and Germany and traveled around the world and built churches, and I'd done all these amazing things that you only read about, you know. And so I just began to pray about, God, what do you want me to do now? You know? And I was in the process of praying about that, and God really spoke to my heart about coming back and really supporting what they were doing and getting back on board. And you know, I was back in the days when Winter Jam was just getting started. Back in the days when our big youth event called Extreme, we'll have 40 or 50,000 kids every year, or 30,000 kids show up every year in different cities. And I was back in the beginning stages of that, and to see how God's blessed Newsong and moved that along, and how God had blessed my ministry and our partnership and our friendship over the years has been exciting. So really, to get back on the bus was easy. It was easy. You know, it was humbling because I didn't want my friends to think that I was quitting being a solo artist, but it's never been about that for me anyway. I want God to have the opportunity to use me wherever He sees fit, not where I think is the best career move. You know what I mean? So as I came back, my wife and I just prayed about what that meant. And it was easy. I loved these guys, and I knew them, and they were my friends. And it was almost like just a band of brothers reunited, you know. So it's been a really good experience. It's been exciting, and we've had the opportunity to do some great things since I got back.
Yeah, well, Winter Jam in general is it just seems to get bigger and bigger every year. And I think the coolest thing about Winter Jam is, number one, out of all concerts, secular or Christian, Winter Jam is one of the top drawing concerts every single year consistently. And the thing that, I mean, the thing that's even like better is the fact that I was looking at the numbers of people who made decisions for Christ last year. And I'm like, that's amazing. I mean, how do you guys feel about being a part of something so big, of people making a decision to follow Christ as their Savior? I mean, what does that mean to you?
To you, I think you answered it in your question. It's bigger than, it's just bigger than us. You know, we always say that, you know, we hold Winter Jam kind of like this. You know, I say we because we're in Newsong, but ultimately, you know, Eddie and Billy and the guys before me were the ones that started it. But we hold on to it very loosely and graciously because we can't explain. We really can't explain it. The $10 ticket, the fact that God is glorified all night. You know, there's a lot of reasons, but if you try to duplicate it, it may not ever happen again. You know, God is just blessing this tour, so we try to stay out of the way of it. We try to bring on the right people, and I tell you what, the bands and the drivers and the catering people and all the stuff that happens behind the scenes is about as miraculous as what happens in the concert. I mean, the family that happens back here, it's like we feel like we're doing what God has called us to do. We feel like we're doing it right. We're away from our families, but we have a family on the road. We have 2 road pastors. Winter Jam is set up, in my opinion, is set up for success because we're always putting God first, always giving it back to Him.
Right.
And I think as long as we continue to do that, you know, He continue to show up and bless it and show Himself off like He does every night.
And there's such a sense of community. It's neat to see Jamie Grace go up on stage and Toby Mack go out and do a guest thing, and he's the headliner. It's not even his turn yet. And he'll show up on stage, and you'll see him every night standing beside the stage listening to other artists and encouraging them. And there's such a sense of community. Our tour pastor, Bobby Joyner, always says this is a little picture of what heaven's supposed to be like. Because you've got all these different diverse musical styles, you've got different backgrounds and different stories all coming together, you know, for one common cause. It's pretty exciting. It's really what the church, the body of Christ, I think is supposed to look like. And it is a church. Like Matt said, we've got 10 buses and 4 trucks and 140 people going from city to city to city. So, you know, we're kind of like Abraham moving across the desert or something. It's amazing.
Well, in closing, we're at the beginning of the tour. The tour just started about a week ago. What else would you like to say to the fans out there that are waiting for Winter Jam to come to their town? Because you guys get a lot of dates ahead of you, and then you've got the Winter Jam in the fall, and those people out west that are going to be looking forward to seeing you guys.
Yeah.
What do you want to say to them? This is your chance to be able to tell them, because this video will be up while they're waiting to see y'all.
Yeah.
Get there early.
Yeah, I think that's the best advice.
Last night in Jacksonville, there was probably 10,000 people inside, and I think 8,000 people outside. So what we're starting to do now is set up a stage outside for the people who can't get in, because there's so many people outside that can't get in. So each artist you get done playing out here, and then they go outside and play a song or two, and
do a mini jam.
Kind of is a mini jam, but yeah, come early if you can.
Awesome. And you know what? Also, know that if you have family members or people that you love that maybe don't know Christ, I promise you they're going to have more fun than they thought they would ever have at a Christian event. They're going to love the music and the artists because they're world class, and they're going to hear the message of the gospel clear, because that's always been the heartbeat of Winter Jam. It's always been the heartbeat of Winter Jam, and it always will be. So, we kind of feel like when people come to Winter Jam, we're on mission with them. We're partnering with people to share the gospel with their families and their friends, and people who've come to Winter Jam year after year, like in Greenville, South Carolina, and Chattanooga, Tennessee, some of those cities we've been to, Tampa, even people will come and bring their family members that don't know Christ because they want them to know His hope, And so I hope people that are watching this that are thinking about coming will not just come to Winter Jam, but bring somebody who needs to be encouraged.
Winter Jam is coming to a city near you. Just check out jamtour.com for all the concert dates.